So what power can we expect from the new killer to come in the 6-year anniversary chapter? Let's talk about it. Kings and queens, welcome back to Theory Time. In today's video, we are going to be talking about the killer power speculation. Now, there's a lot of things that we need to talk about before we jump on into this. First of all, this is assuming that the information that we got that was data mined and leaked, again, not confirmed, is correct, meaning that the new killer is indeed going to be original and that their power is going to be interacting with a locker, whatever this entails. So we're going to go over all of the possibilities of what that means. Now, again, remember, this is just a theory. This is not confirmed. We are speculating on this. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump on into the 5 concepts and ideas that I think are more than likely to come on out if this is true. Let's start with the obvious one, number 1 on the list. Going in and out of the lockers to teleport. Now, of all the ones on the list, this is the most boring one, and I really am not looking forward to something like this coming, as we have so much different killers that have abilities very similar to this. Think about Freddy, the Demogorgon, etc. You can easily teleport across the map or go to wherever you want, although this one will give you probably the most maneuverability in choosing where you want to go at any given time. Obviously, we don't know cooldowns, etc., but you could probably go to any different locker. But we see this power way too often in the game, and it just seems like it's been recycled over and over and over. So while this one is likely to come, or has a good chance, I should say, it's something that I don't think should come, and it would be lazy unless this was just a small part of a bigger power that's to come. In that case, then it could make a little bit of sense, but if it's just going in and out lockers for the sake of teleporting to other lockers and traversing around the map, I think it is a very lazy power and not really anniversary worthy. Let's go ahead and move on though to the second more likely option, which is a reloading power similar to the Huntress or the Trickster. So we know that the Huntress and the Trickster also interact with lockers, and if the original killer that is going to come out in the 6-year anniversary is going to be interacting with lockers, there is a possibility that they could have a reload power similar to the Huntress or the Trickster that allows them to go into the lockers and reload their power. Whether that means they're going to be another projectile killer or they just have to do this in order to recharge whatever power they have, it definitely could be a possibility. These are the only killers that we really see interacting with lockers that deal with their power. Besides that, there really isn't too much to go off of. Every other killer is pretty standard. So if we are getting another killer and another projectile killer at that, it could make sense that this could be a route that they decide to take, and this is what they mean by the killer is going to have an interaction with the locker. Let's move on to the third option. This is when things are starting to get a little bit more spicy and I'm getting a little bit more creative with some of the ideas. This also taps into our other original theories where the Observer, the Spider, the Vampire, the Babadook, whatever it may be, could come on in as the new original killer. So this one is changing your weapon in the locker. So think of this one as a jack of all trades. You can go into the locker and essentially choose a different power. Maybe you don't have the option to choose and it's kind of random or it goes in a cycle, but having the ability to swap your power. What I mean by this is that let's say there's a set of 3 different powers. The first one being a projectile, the second one being a fast mobility one, and the third one just being a 1-down power. And this way you can interact with the locker in order to swap your power. They'll all have their different recharge times and different balancings, etc. But this way you can have a killer that kind of does it all. Now, of course, if you are a jack of all trades, you are the master of none, so we can't have any specific category that's going to be stronger than any set killer, or else that killer would be very, very strong. We can't have him swapping between the Oni's power, and then the Trapper's power, and then the Huntress's power, because why wouldn't everybody play that specified killer? So you would obviously have to tone it down a little bit if this is something that does end up coming into the game, making it a little bit more balanced. So in this example, maybe the one-shot ability has a extremely large recharge rate. And then if you have a projectile, maybe it's not a one-shot like the Huntress, but rather something more similar to Trickster. And every time that you get it down, there's a cooldown, etc. Whatever the case may be, but it does make sense to have a killer that comes into the game that can swap through their powers. And I think that is indeed anniversary worthy if they can go and do that. We never really seen a killer that can swap their powers. The most we've gotten were some add-ons that changes the powers up a little bit. Think about Nurse that goes into 115 and her power is locked. Things like that are pretty interesting. and maybe dream palettes with Freddy and the snares are something that's closer to swapping out those powers. Let's move on to our fourth option. This one is one of the more interesting ones, and it kind of goes a little bit more than just a weapon swap, and that's shapeshifting. Shapeshifting coming in as the new power. That would be incredible. Going into the locker to either shapeshift into a different killer that's already in a game, or your own version of it, or a different set. Think about the old school legions. When we got the first teases of them, I shouldn't really say old school, but rather when we got the first teases and we thought we could swap in between the match to different characters. This is very similar to last year, where you could just pick whatever killer you want to be during the match, and next time you die, you come back, you respawn, and you're playing as that killer. We could see a shape-shifting ability where you're actually able to turn into a different killer. You can become whatever the sets they have are, and each of them having their own unique power, or maybe it's just something that's subtle that will change the gameplay or even the core mechanics. Maybe you change your speed, movement speed. You go from a 115 to a 120 to a 110 to a 98, whatever the case may be. Something along those lines to just change it. Or maybe you can even turn into a different survivor. Every time you go into the locker, instead of using your power, it can change the character that you're looking at to be a brand new survivor. And that's something that is indeed anniversary worthy, because it's a unique power that we really haven't seen before. I mentioned in a lot of my other videos that if indeed an original chapter is going to be coming out for the anniversary event, it has to be really, really massive and unique, or else the community really is not going to be happy that the biggest chapter of the year is something that's very lackluster. I've used the example many times, so we can't see the artist or the trickster coming in similar powers, I should say, and expect people to be satisfied. We need to get something that is so out of this world and game changing, similar to like when the nurse came out, and we never really seen anything like that before, in order to have that nice big impact of, hey, this is a 6-year anniversary chapter. A lot of people are still on the fence about the idea, even though it's not fully confirmed whatsoever, so it definitely has some big shoes to fill. Now that takes us to our final theory, essentially, and that is the transformation into a vampire or a spider. Now, we also mentioned that the vampire and the spider are likely candidates in our eyes to come into the game as the anniversary killer. This can mean that the killer would have to interact with a locker in order to change their form, similar to the shapeshifting ability, but to use the other side of their power, becoming a vampire or becoming a spider running around. So we could have a humanoid type of spider or a Dracula type killer. They go and interact with the locker, and then all of a sudden they are now transformed into a vampire that can see the aerial view of things. They then go into the locker, transform, and come back out. Similar to the spider, you can go on all fours, run around, go in the locker, come on out, become a humanoid spider type of creature. It could make a lot of sense. Or the spider, we could even tie back to the power with the number 2 with the reloading power to reload your webs or something. But that would be quite interesting, having a vampire that can just traverse the map, see the aerial view, jump into a locker, come out, and then you are now in your humanoid form. Or we can see that with a spider. It does make a lot of sense to me, and it will be something that's so unique and so different that it really would hit home. But those are just my ideas and my concepts of what the killer power can be for the 6-year anniversary. I really am expecting some big things, and I hope that they knock this out of the park. Normally, we always get licensed chapters, so getting an original is definitely something that's going to be a little bit more new, and I hope they really do it well by giving us something to look forward to. We'll have to wait and see, obviously, but until then, it's fun to theorize and to speculate on what's to come. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Let me know what you think about each and every single one of these concepts. Do you see any of them coming into the game, or do you have your own unique one that you would like to do? But I'm going to wrap up the video here. I really hope you guys did enjoy. As always, I'm the king. I tip my crown to you guys, and we'll see you in the fog. Take care.